Just one moment. So today we'll continue our discussion on Srila Rupa, and so before we start today's discussion, let's just go through some of the things that we discussed yesterday and how those things are relevant for us to appreciate further about Srila Rupa Goswami. Anyone remembers or anyone wants to summarize one or two points from yesterday's discussion?
Yesterday you have explained about the three kinds of servant. One who does his service without being asked. Second type of servant is you ask him and he does it. And the third type of servant is you ask him and he does it, but sometimes he doesn't.
Yes. Anyone else remembers what we discussed yesterday? Okay. Yes, one more point you can share. Yes.
Yeah, Prabhuji. And you have also explained about the definition of bhakti, anna vilasita shunyam, gyan karmadi anavritam, anukulena krishna shilanam bhaktir uttama. So you have also explained about the bhakti.
So what is the significance of that? Why should we discuss definition of bhakti in Rupa Goswami's class?
When we follow the footstep of Rupa Goswami, then then our characters, and actually we have to minimize our desires. Like here it is saying that anna vilasita shunyam, means whatever means avilasha is there in our so that will be actually gradually decreased.
Okay, we'll look into it, some of the things. Maybe we'll just yes, go ahead, Ankit Soni.
Yes, Prabhuji. I mean, that is mainly like uttama bhakti, like the highest bhakti. You have like it is mentioned like the highest bhakti is defined as continuous service directed towards Krishna and his devotees.
Okay. Okay, I think it's worthwhile to rediscuss some of these points because these are very important to appreciate Rupa Goswami and also the principles of devotion. So let us go through some of the things that we discussed yesterday again. So before that, this presentation is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of Worldwide Hare Krishna Movement. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So yesterday we started with looking at a brief discussion of Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and his brother Anupama or Vallabha were three great devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we started with two pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, which were describing three kinds of servants. And the most important being first class, second class, and third class, among them the most important being the first class. The first class devotees means they are eager to please spiritual master without being asked. So they are so eager, they are so anticipating the needs of the spiritual master, and they are always eager to serve the spiritual master They don't have to be forced to do some service. And the second class devotees, you ask him and he does it. So, and third class is you ask him and he does it begrudgingly or doesn't do it at all. So, third class means either there is hesitation to do service, sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes complaining, sometimes unhappy doing service, or various sorts of complaints and unhappy while doing service, criticizing. So there are different kinds of services one can do. So it's very important to realize that for one to become first class, one must be able to understand the mood, the mind and heart of the master, of the spiritual master or the authority. So for that, one must become a good hearer. Only when one is very attentive to hear means to see not what I think, what I feel is more important, but rather shift the consciousness to what is the need of the devotee, the authority, or the spiritual master, or the Supreme Lord. So when that context comes into one's mind, then one starts thinking always, one is on his toes, ready to do service. What else to be done? What else to be done? How can I please? How can I use this moment to please my authority, my spiritual master, the Supreme Lord? So this consciousness one is carrying, one is very, very alert, then even he can foresee things. And without complaining, he doesn't complain. He is always willing to go any step forward because his only mission is to please his authority, spiritual master, and the Supreme Lord, and therefore he is not complaining. So this is very important. And wonderful example of this is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, at the age of 70, he traveled all the way to America. Now, he was carrying in his heart the instruction of his spiritual master, and he's executing that unfailingly. So this is the highest kind of service. Now, why is this so important? For this, one should be able to understand the mind and heart of the spiritual master. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj had so many disciples, but amongst them, Srila Prabhupada could understand the essence of. One second. Yeah. So, Srila Prabhupada could understand the essence of what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj wanted. He wanted preaching to happen in the Western countries. He wanted the Gaudiya Vaishnava literature to be published in English. Now, this factor, although known to many other devotees, they were not taking it as seriously. And they were happy with different programs. But a first-class devotee strictly follows the instruction of the spiritual master. This is very, very important principle. And for that, we must become attentive to hear what is there in the heart of my spiritual master. What does he want me to do? Most of the time, we want to do something. But other way around to do this is, what do they want me to do? What does my spiritual master want me to do? What does my authority wants me to do? And to align with that and rendering service, that's the first class, and to please them the way they want. Service means to please, not us, but the one who is giving us service. So this consciousness is very, very important. And the reason that we were discussing is the quality of Rupa Goswami. So we were also discussing about this point. But more important is that we are also known as Rupanugas, or followers in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. That is because Rupa Goswami is a great follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, because he could understand the mind and heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in spirit, in completeness, trying to fulfill his desire, and therefore he has become the leader for this Krishna consciousness movement. And he was specially empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. So, artificially one cannot become leader in spiritual movement. Leader means more service. So one who can do more service becomes the leader. So that's very important. Leader in spiritual life means who is willing to do more service, who can do more service. So here Srila Rupa Goswami is demonstrating first class devotion by understanding the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and trying to implement that in the material world. And therefore this prayer, Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadha Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So this is the prayer to Rupa Goswami we should all offer. When will Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world a mission to fulfill the devotional service, so this prayer is very, very important, that Rupa Goswami is no ordinary. He is fulfilling the mission. Under his direction, the entire Krishna consciousness movement is being run. Even today, it is under their guidance, it is moving. So we should offer our prayers to Rupa Goswami, and by their mercy, we get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then we also discussed that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving Unnata Ujjvala Rasam, Swabhakti Shriyam. Unnata Ujjvala, the highest mellows. Unnata Ujjvala Rasam, the highest mellows of devotional service, of his own service. Swabhakti. So this is, so there is a transcendental mellow of devotional service. We are all trying to extract some joy out of material world, but it is so, what do you call, tuchha, it is insignificant. So there is a transcendental mellow in devotional service. There is a transcendental mellow in chanting Hare Krishna, in executing devotional service as ordered by the previous acharyas, which actually satisfies the soul, not otherwise. That is the actual rasa that the soul is looking for. Without that, the soul is not satisfied. Actually, if one performs proper devotional service, he becomes self-satisfied. He would be completely gone out of the modes of passion and ignorance, and he becomes situated in the mode of goodness and even higher. So this is the great gain, the highest perfection of human life. The greatest mellows of devotional service are being explained and freely distributed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Srila Rupa Goswami is doing that exactly to fulfill that mission for which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come. And as Sankirtan has to spread all over the world, and that's the will of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is going to happen. And so for that, Srila Rupa Goswami has laid the foundation. How did he lay the foundation? So he has given the definitions. He has given the science of devotional service. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. What is the science of devotion? These definitions are not ordinary definitions. They are establishing how one should practice bhakti. What is bhakti? Because in our own minds we can concoct various understandings of bhakti, various levels of bhakti. But here Rupa Goswami is establishing the principles on which the Sankirtana movement can run. That is, the goal of Sankirtana is to achieve Unnata Ujjvala Rasam, Swabhakti Shriyam, the taste of highest devotional mellow. And that cannot be obtained just randomly without following any instructions of the spiritual master. Randomly, if one takes to bhakti, he will not attain to the highest perfection. And therefore, these definitions, this path laid down by Rupa Goswami forms the method to attain that highest goal. So process is well defined with clear definitions, with clear steps of what are the different stages of devotional service and what are the weeds, what are the different mellows. There is a clear description given by Rupa Goswami, and that are very, very important for one to understand. Only then one's understanding of devotion strengthens, and that helps one to do Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. That intensifies one's bhakti. So when we are doing the right consciousness of being a servant of the Supreme Lord, a servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Lord, because that consciousness is very important. Because if that consciousness is not right, Ankulyena Krishna Anushilanam, If it is not favorable, then it is not Uttama Bhakti. Is it favorable service, or am I doing in the mood of myself lording over something? I want to lord over and I chant Hare Krishna, or I want some other material gain and chant Hare Krishna. So one can do different kinds of bhakti and still think I'm all doing great bhakti. But there is a difference in the level of bhakti. So those finer aspects of to reach the highest perfection, we must carefully study Rupa Goswami's work. Rupa Raghunatha Pade Habe Kabe Habe Akuti. So until unless one does not develop the taste to understand the literatures given by Sri Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami, the Goswamis, then we cannot understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Because only when we go through them, systematically we can reach the goal. Otherwise, our mind will divert us to some other goals, which is mixed with jnana, which is mixed with karma, some for my benefit, some for devotion. Some speculative knowledge I will add, some devotional knowledge I will take. Something I will do favorable for Krishna, something I will do favorable for me, my family, something else. So these misconceptions cannot go away without taking the guidance of Rupa Goswami. And this is the great contribution. Otherwise, if you look carefully at different sampradayas, different religions, people are confused about the right definitions. They say कुछ भी चलता है. Okay, ये भी ठीक है, वो भी ठीक है. करो. Whatever you like, you do. You go to this Swami, you go to that Swami. You like to do this. You want to chant today this much. You want to chant tomorrow that way. You do the way you want. But that doesn't lead to the goal. So therefore, if one wants to reach the goal, these definitions given by Rupa Goswami are so important, and that's why we were studying the contribution of Rupa Goswami. The contribution of Rupa Goswami is this, that he has laid down the science of devotion by studying all the Vedic literatures. And we will look some more aspects of that today. And as we saw yesterday, Rupa Goswami is also known as Bhakti Rasacharya. So he is expert in understanding the taste of pure devotional service. So continuing that, so we saw yesterday that contribution of Rupa Goswami is that science of devotion. He has given us the science behind what is devotion. So continuing today, we will discuss one verse of Shad Goswami Astakam. This is a wonderful prayer written by Srinivas Acharya. So it goes like this. Nana Shastra Vichar Naikau Naika Nipunau Sadharma Samstapakau Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyau Sharanyakarau Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajananandena Matalikau Vande Rupa Sanatanau Raghuyugau Sri Jiva Gopalakau. So this is a prayer offered by Srinivas Acharya glorifying the 6 Goswamis. It's a wonderful prayer he is offering. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Rupa, Sanatana, the 2 Raghuyugau, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Gopala Bhatta Goswami. Why is he offering? And in this prayer, there are wonderful descriptions of what these Goswamis have done. So here, the first thing that is being referred to here is Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau. So what they have done, they have very scrutinizingly, very expertly, Nana Shastra, the revealed scriptures, they have studied them very, very carefully. Why did they study so carefully? They studied so carefully that they would just sleep 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and some days they wouldn't even sleep, and they are always busy writing literatures. Why are they doing this? So that Sadharma Samstapakavo, to establish the eternal religion, to establish the real principles, the real science of religion. Which religion? Sadharma Samstapakavo, the eternal religion given by Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. to establish that, they have studied very carefully all the Vedic literatures, and they have taken out the essence, the principles which are required to follow and achieve the highest goal, to establish the right principles of religion. And what is the reason for doing this? What is the benefit of doing all this? Lokanam hitakarinav tribhuvane manyav. So that all the people can benefit. Not knowing what is actual religious principle, people are all bewildered. So this is Rupanuga means. Rupanuga dharma, Prabhupada says, means to do paropakar. Paropakar means benefit for others. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's religion. To do at least some level of welfare to others. Not to just think, what is my problem, my family, my house, my community. No. Go beyond. To do real well-being. Lokanam hitakarinav. This is Rupanuga dharma. The 6 Goswamis have not taken trouble for their own life. They have elevated, they have been empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are doing this so that the common people, the normal people, can take benefit for their well-being. And because of this, they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of. Tribhuvane manyav sharanya karo. Because they are so compassionate to uplift the common people who are stuck in the material world. They are giving us clear directions. They are taking so much trouble for our well-being, and with the aim of establishing the eternal religious principles, and therefore they are worthy of to take shelter. And what is being said? Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajananandena Matalikao. They are absorbed in the mood of gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So, Rupa Goswami, the 6 Goswamis, they are not of the material world. They are eternal associates. So they are bringing spiritual world, as how one does service in the spiritual world, completely absorbed. There is no other thing. Fully immersed in the service of Radha and Krishna. And that is being practically demonstrated by the Goswamis. How they were completely calling out the name of Radha and Krishna. Where are you? Where are you? They are constantly engaged in the service in pure devotion. So such are the glorious 6 Goswamis. So we can see Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunav, and Sri Rupa Goswami is also known as Sri Rupa Manjari. Is described to be the gopi named Sri Rupa Manjari, and here there are 16 important books written by Srila Rupa Goswami are mentioned. So some of this, so as we saw, Nana Shastra Vicharanaiko, so having taken the essence of all the scriptures, they have established the principles of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtana movement. And these are wonderfully composed verses, and no ordinary human being can do this. Some of these books have 1 lakh verses. And some of these books describe the, for example, Ujjvala Nilamani. It describes the most confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna. No ordinary layman can write those descriptions. And these are so wonderfully written. Vidagdha Madhava is another book which describes, which is in the form of a drama describing the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So they have taken out the essence, the essence of the Vedic principles, and not only that, they have also presented the highest confidential activities of Lord Krishna. So Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada mentions that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this is the most celebrated book by Srila Rupa Goswami. And we were also fortunate to read Nectar of Instruction by Rupa Goswami. Without these books, it is very difficult to make further advancement. So these real contributions by Rupa Goswami is to be appreciated. And Prabhupada very painstakingly has summarized Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the English, the Nectar of Devotion. So this is the glorious writings. These are just few important books. There are many other books written by Srila Rupa Goswami. So it is very important to note how much painstakingly they have written to establish this Krishna consciousness movement for all of us to appreciate and make further progress. So today I will describe maybe one or two aspects of maybe one more aspect of the Goswamis, especially Srila Rupa Goswami, is humility. So this is another very important principle. They exhibit highest humility. So although we didn't discuss extensively about the life of Rupa Goswami, we have been discussing about his contribution and his activities. So when we will discuss Sanatana Goswami, we will discuss in more detail the activity, the life of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami simultaneously. But as of now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was supposed to go to Vrindavan, but instead of going to Vrindavan, he goes to West Bengal. Is it better now, screen?
Prabhuji, it is some shades are also coming. I think due to network problem. You can stop and share again.
Okay. Is it better? Okay.
Still trying to share.
Is there something in between?
In between, actually, there is a one, black window. Now it is good. Now it is good, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So, yes. So this is about humility of Rupa Goswami. So we'll look into a few aspects of the humility aspect of Sri Rupa Goswami. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was supposed to travel to Vrindavan. Then again, he somehow goes to West Bengal. And at that point of time, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were working as ministers in the Muslim government, and they were located in a place called Ramkeli. So Ramkeli is much north to in the West Bengal. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visits Ramkeli, and he goes Ramkeli, although it's not on the way to Vrindavan, but he goes specifically to deliver these two great, in fact, three devotees, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Anupama, the three brothers. So he specifically goes to Ramkeli and to deliver them. Now, it is very important, how did these two devotees, in fact, initially Rupa and Sanatana meets Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Ramkeli. Now, how did they meet? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very, very important. So, as soon as they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from a very far distance, keeping straw in between their teeth, they paid obeisances. And not only they paid obeisances from far, but as soon as, in fact, they were not Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami at that time. They were Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. They were working in the government of the Muslim king, so they were not initiated by Rupa Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu yet. So they were feeling very, very low. So although they were born in Saraswat Brahmin family, they actually belong to a Brahmana family from Karnataka. But because they associated with the Muslim rulers, they felt themselves very, very Nicha Jati. In fact, they referred themselves to be Nicha Jati. Why do they refer themselves to be Nicha Jati? Because of their association with lowly, the Mohammedans, the Muslim rulers who were encouraging slaughterhouse, meat eating, and therefore they felt they were very, very low. But it is very important to note, they say, after saying this, that they belong to Nicha Jati, they say, we not only belong to Nicha Jati, we are lower than Jagai and Madai. Why is that they are saying they are lower than Jagai and Madai? Then they give explanation to that. So they say that Jagai and Madai, although they were Brahmanas in Navadvip. Therefore, they must be even more pious. Even though they had some bad habits, but they had the mercy of Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. And therefore, they were delivered and they chanted the holy name. But we are still fallen. And further, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they say that they did not work under someone. Just like a dog, when it serves the master, it offends many people sometimes to just please the master. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, he says that just like sometimes dog barks at someone who is coming at the house, so that the master is very pleased that my dog is very attentive. It is offending few other random people in the hope of getting praise by the master. So similarly, we are doing so many activities for the king, and we may be offending so many people. But that was not the position of Jagai and Madai. They did not work for anyone. They were sinful, but they did not work for anyone. And in this way, they began to tell that Jagai and Madai are much better than us. So we are most fallen. Please give us shelter. So this is the mood. This is great mood of how to approach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to carry this characteristic of humility. Similarly, again, when Rupa Goswami meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag, this is their second meeting. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to Vrindavan after that, and after this first meeting, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivers them, seeing their humility and kindness, and then he asks them to go to Vrindavan. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from here goes back to Jagannath Puri, and from there he again goes to Vrindavan. So when they get the news that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has started to Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami and Vallabha or Anupama, they go to Vrindavan. So eventually they meet Lord at Prayag, and is it Prayag or Banaras? Prayag. So Prayag. So Lord was dancing, and it was said that there was never a confluence, there was never an overflooding of water. There is a confluence of Ganga and Yamuna, but there was never an overflood of water. But by the presence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was overflooding with love of Krishna. Everyone was chanting in ecstasy and dancing. So Rupa Goswami and his younger brother Anupama, they saw the Lord from far and they stayed away. And when Lord was alone, they saw from far and they again paid full dandavards, fell like a rod, keeping straw in between the teeth. And they were again expressing their position, that they are very, very fallen. And here is when Rupa Goswami was chanting this wonderful verse, glorifying Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauritvishe Namaha. So just see, they are no ordinary. Rupa Goswami could understand the position of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya Namine. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine. You are having the name Krishna Chaitanya, but you are Krishna himself. So this fact that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not just an ordinary devotee, but the Supreme Lord himself, was known to very few of his associates. Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Rai, very few of them, Sarvam Bhattacharya and Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami could recognize what is the position of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's saying the most munificent and charitably disposed, Mahavadanyaya. So just see how exalted Rupa Goswami is. He knows what is the purpose why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared. Krishna Prema Pradayate. He knows who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, what is the purpose of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent, and how merciful Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisance unto you. So this is the mood of approaching the Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To sincerely offer prayers in humility. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very much attracted by the humility of the devotees. And therefore, as we see in the Shikshastakam verse 3, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So again, Rupa Goswami petitions that you could deliver Jagai and Madhai, so please deliver us. So seeing this great humility of Rupa Goswami and Vallabha, Lord embraces them, touches their head with his feet, and blesses them that Krishna has delivered you from all material entanglements. So you have received the mercy of Krishna. So this is the way. So if we want to receive the mercy, so the qualification is to actually realize our fallen condition and sincerely offer our prayers to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because the false ego doesn't allow us to believe we are fallen, so we are very not cognizant of the fact that we should offer our sincere prayers, and by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, we can overcome the struggle for existence. So these are the wonderful prayers offered by Rupa Goswami. And then again there is another incident which also describes the humility of the Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami and Haridas Thakur. So they all came to Jagannath Puri to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as some of you might be aware, that Jagannath Puri, except Hindus, the other people of other religions are not allowed into the temple of Jagannath Puri. And although these three devotees, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami and Haridas Thakur, they are the most exalted. But Haridas Thakur, being born in Mohammedan family, and Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, because they were associated with the Muslim ruler and they had some association in the past, they also thought that we are all unqualified to see Jagannath. So they didn't think that, oh, now we are blessed personally by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so let me enter into the temple and do the way I want. Now we are qualified, we are the most exalted. No, so they thought it is not appropriate for us, we are not eligible, it is not right upon us to go inside the temple. And they would chant and render service to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so pleased with the humility of the Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself would go and visit them every day. So humility attracts Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is very wonderfully demonstrated by all these wonderful acharyas who are completely depending upon the mercy of the Lord. So this is another wonderful instance of the mercy of the humility of Sri Rupa Goswami and the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then there is one more incident where, as I explained this pastime some time back also, so this is the pastime of a scholar coming and trying to defeat Rupa Goswami. So he came to argue with Rupa Goswami and to prove that he is much better scholar. And Rupa Goswami, without any hesitation, he said, I am fine, I am defeated, I agree. And that scholar was so adamant that I don't accept that you just say that, you give in writing. So Rupa Goswami was not interested in wasting his time. And therefore, he said, okay, I give it to you in writing. And this scholar goes from that place, thinking that he has defeated the most greatest scholar in Vrindavan. And on his way, he also goes to Jiva Goswami and says, I defeated your uncle. Now I want to have a debate with you also. Jiva Goswami immediately accepts the invitation of this scholar and he defeats him. So this is another great exemplary act of Rupa Goswami, that he is not interested for name and fame. He has written lakhs and lakhs of verses glorifying Krishna. But he is not interested to establish himself as some sort of name, fame. What is the fourth verse of Shikshastakam? Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhakti rahetu kitvai. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va. So none of these things are important. The only thing is not to waste time apart from doing anything. I mean, without doing bhakti, the only desire is to do bhakti. So anything else is a waste of time. Even, but for us, our name, fame, or glorification sometimes becomes so important that we get engrossed in speaking those things or indulging in finding ways and means as how we can improve our name or fame. But here are these Goswamis who are demonstrating highest humility without any regard for their own personal name, fame, and things. So this is very important to note that they have completely dedicated their entire life just to glorify and spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as we can also see in the example of this, Jiva Goswami has taken up the debate not because he's not humble, it's just because he doesn't want his spiritual master. So Jiva Goswami was trained under Rupa Goswami, he was a spiritual master. So he didn't want his spiritual master to be defeated. He cannot accept that. And therefore, to crush the arrogance of the scholar, Jiva Goswami took up this. So it is very important to note the great contribution of Sri Rupa Goswami and the great qualities exhibited by Sri Rupa Goswami. It is through their mercy that one can understand the true principles of devotional life. And by understanding their lives, one can develop great qualities that they exhibited. So they gave up their own ministerial positions. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were great ministers, but they didn't think even twice to give up that. So this is very important. If we follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami, then we can make great progress in spiritual life. So here is one instruction in general for everyone, following the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. So Brahmana Vaishnava Dila Tara ardha dhane, eka chauti dhana tila kutumba bharane. So, how to distribute one's wealth? What is renunciation? So sometimes people get confused, but here Rupa Goswami is giving definitive principle. It's just like I had one class today where they were discussing about renunciation in Islam. So what is renunciation? The professor is explaining, quoting a verse from Quran, saying renunciation means not to have attachments. But then he is explaining further, saying that not so much attachment, you can have a little bit. But how much? You can have as much as you want, but don't get attached. But how will one do that practically? What is required, what is not required? How can one discern in the conditioned state? So here there are clear instructions given by Rupa Goswami that he's saying that, in fact, Srila Rupa Goswami, when he left Ramkeli to Vrindavan to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had 10,000 gold coins which he deposited to help his brother Sanatan Goswami, but he also divided his wealth in this way. How? He gave 50% in charity to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas and 25% to his relatives and 25% for himself for the emergencies. So this is a practical way as how to engage the income one gets, because material attachments are very, very strong. And therefore, one should be very careful as how one uses material wealth and other, especially wealth. It's very important. So this is another very important instruction, practical instruction given by Rupa Goswami. So these are few important things to take note of, that to become first-class servant, one must be able to understand the mind and heart of the spiritual master. And for that, one must become very submissive and become good at hearing and develop this consciousness of what is that my spiritual master wants me to do. And for this, when one becomes servant of the servant of the servant, and with a submissive mood, with a humble mood, when one approaches the spiritual master, he will be further guided to do first-class service. That should be the goal. And we can see how Rupa Goswami is exhibiting the highest standards of devotional service by taking up the mission and the desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we should all assist in this movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu coming down from Rupa Goswami to Srila Prabhupada, and in this process. So we should serve the devotees, the authorities, the temple, and through that we are serving Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas. And it is also important to note the great quality of contributing to writing. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj used to say that writing literature is like Brihat Mridanga. It's like it makes very loud noise. Sometimes the Sahajiyas in Vrindavan would criticize the 6 Goswamis for saying, what is that you're writing this literature? You want some name and fame? That's why you're writing these literatures? You're not engaging in bhajana? But no, they were doing this for Sadharma Samstapana Ko, to establish the eternal religious principle for the welfare of others. So sometimes people may mistake, why are they writing? Why are they not doing something else? No, so this is a very important task taken up by the 6 Goswamis, and Srila Prabhupada also recommends that devotees should write, and that will help them in their realizations also, because whatever one realizes, if one writes, Prabhupada says it gets reinforced. It is very helpful for the devotee. So writing is a wonderful contribution of the Rupa Goswami, especially the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of devotion, nectar of instructions are very important for one to make further progress. And then we can also see, in spite of being so highly elevated, especially favored by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami was so extremely humble. And they were always depending upon the mercy of the Lord. And in all circumstances, they were engaged in the service of the Lord. And neither they bothered about anything for their own personal needs. And they minimized to the least minimum, and always engaged, so that they can please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and help the Paraupakar for the benefit of the others. And here is one simple practical instruction as how one should engage one's wealth in the service of the Lord. So there are so many other principles and other great qualities of Rupa Goswami, but we just, for the sake of time, just taking few of them. But I hope this will inspire you to read more and appreciate more and offer prayers to Rupa Goswami. We should all offer, so that we are blessed to, we get more mercy to serve Prabhupada and the Sankirtana movement. So with that, I'll stop and see if there are any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I think you have explained like this donation from our income, right? 50% to Brahmanas and 25% to relatives and all, right? Is it like every month, or is it like every year we should do that, or like, I mean,
that's a good question. What do you think? How do you calculate 25% and 50%?
To my knowledge, it should be like every month we should do that, right?
Yes. So 25%, 50% of whatever one gets.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I mean, whatever salary we get,
Yeah.
so that 50% of that is for Vaishnava or the service of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the devotees. And 25 for personal needs and 25 for family members. Or the emergency 25%.
Okay.
So this is the best way to engage, actually, to engage in the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the best way to utilize anything, whether it's money, intelligence, or strength. In any ways possible, if one gives, one does not become a beggar. There may be a fear that what will happen, but actually what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can give, what is his mercy, and it's our fortune to get an opportunity to be engaged in some ways. So if anyone can follow this principle, will be greatly benefited, and there will be no loss. Okay, I have a small video to play. If there are anything else before. So we have some very exciting sessions coming up. Discussion on Guru Astakam, then Bharat Maharaj, and controlling mind. So please do take advantage of these wonderful discussions. And there's also Sunday's arrival of Srila Prabhupada to America. So it's a very auspicious day. So please do join us for coming weeks. And if there are any questions or comments? Okay, if not, I request everyone to come in front of the camera. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Rupa Goswami ki, Jai. All Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.